All right, we're going to walk through one problem here on page 30, problem number 4. And even though several steps are given, let's just kind of logically walk through the steps and see how it's being developed, okay? We're going to use some of these substitutions that we had here, plus some of the new ones that we had on the previous page. What page was that? 28. So the sign, in this case of plus, oops, it would actually be on 27. So the sine of A times the cosine of B plus the cosine of A times the sine of B. All right, so we have an angle theta plus 180. We're trying to prove that the tangent of an angle theta plus pi, 180, will be the same as just the tangent of theta. So let's walk through these steps here. Tangent is, first of all, we recognize that tangent is sine over cosine. So we're going to do that substitution. The argument is the same, so we just take the theta plus pi, plug in theta plus pi, theta plus pi. So we keep the same argument, we're just putting sine over cosine. All right, then we saw that we can take the sine of theta, and we're going to write this now as being the sine of theta times the cosine of the pi, plus, and then we do the cosine of theta times the sine of pi. All right. Then that's all over. Since this is cosine, we do the cosine of theta times the cosine of pi minus the sine of theta times the sine of pi. All right, now what is the cosine of pi? Remember, that's 180 degrees, so that's over here. So the cosine adjacent over hypotenuse is going to be -1. So we have sine theta times -1 minus cosine theta, and then the sine of, whoops, I need to make that into a theta. The sine of 180 would be the opposite over the hypotenuse, which makes that 0. So times 0. And then this is over the cosine of theta times, again, the cosine of that is -1 minus the sine of theta times 0. Well, anything times 0 is just 0. So basically that's gone and that's gone. And so this becomes negative sine theta over negative cosine theta. And when we have a negative divided by a negative, that just makes it positive. So we have positive sine theta over cosine theta. And we come over here and we see that, oh, sine over cosine is the same thing as tangent. And so we can now replace sine over cosine with tangent of that argument theta. And so basically this pi has disappeared, okay? It's become, first of all, -1 divided by itself is just 1. Over here became 0, so that whole part disappeared. And we prove now that this is equal to that. So again, it's like like I said before, it's like doing the proofs and theorems in geometry class, except instead of using all the geometry things, we're using trigonometry proofs and identities and statements, and start with what's given, and we're trying to prove that it's equal to that. Okay? There's not a lot of problems on page 28, 29, 30, and hopefully you can fill in the remaining blanks on those pages. And more importantly, just understand that there's not a lot of solving to do. You're just doing substitutions to get from point A to point D or F or whatever and prove that the steps are logical. All right? I'm sure it's going to get harder as we move along, but we're going to take a lot of notes and keep them in our reference notebook so that we can keep referring to them and use them on checkup, self-test, and PACE test.